Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, and the meaning of this is, may the Lord protect both of us. That means both the student and the teacher. May he nourish both of us with knowledge. May both of us make effort for capacity that is required for knowledge to be imparted by the teacher and to be received by the student. May what is studied by us be brilliantly clear, meaningful, free from vagueness. May we not be subject to any kind of misunderstanding. And let there be freedom from 3 possible obstacles. That's why we say Om Shanti 3 times. The first obstacle is hindrance, the pursuit of knowledge. Sometimes we're not in the mood, we're thinking about something that's happened yesterday. This is hindrance number 1. So let us be free from that. Let us be free from obstructions, from forces over which we have no control, like disturbances around us, loud noise, or maybe the kitchen gets on fire, or the computer electricity disappears, so we just don't know how many obstructions are there. So we're asking, let all of these obstructions be put aside so that the knowledge may take place, so that I may grow as a human being. That's why we say Shanti 3 times, by the way. So far, we have done 2 inquiries from our conversations in the last few sessions. The first one is, who are you? That means the nature of the individual. And we said that you are that in whose presence everything is objectified, including your own body and mind. Body pain, body sensations, mind's thoughts, etc. And the only difference between an object, like your table that you're seeing right now, and your body and mind that you're carrying since birth, is we have a special relationship, special connection with that one body mind. You don't have a special connection with that table. That table is gone the moment you go into the room. But wherever we go as a person, we always carry that body mind with us. So through ongoing caring, we get accustomed. Okay, so obviously I'm carrying myself. So this is obviously me. Wherever my thoughts go, they're always with me. Therefore, I am my thoughts. Wherever my body goes, it is always with me. Therefore, I am the body. So through the years and years, we get used and we say thus, I am this body, mind. That's why we say we have a special connection with one body, mind. Just like you have a special connection with one house, your house. Maybe you have a flat, I don't know. So out of all of the houses around us, one house I have a special connection with. And that connection implies I have a certain relationship with it. It means to me something. It's meaningful to me. If there's some damage on the wall, then we get a little bit worried. I want to clean that up. But there's damage in another house. You're so glad it's not your house. But someone else has a special relationship with that house. It's meaningful to them. Same thing with our bodies. Something happens to this body, because I have a special relationship with it, I want to fix it. I want to repair it. So in both cases, we also know that we don't become what we know about. So we do objectify the table, our house, our bodies, but we don't become that. For example, look at your table. Okay, you go table, but you don't become that table. You don't become your body, your thought. How do we know that? We did an inquiry, because you're free of the last thought. If you became your thought, to become means I become that permanently. From there on, I am only that. But you know that's not true. There's a series of thoughts that goes A, B, C, D. They all have different emotions in them. They all have different natures of qualities. And yet they all come and go. So it seems as if I am bound to that thought while it lasts. But after it's gone, you realize in retrospect, actually, I now know that I'm free of that. It means that means my nature is, you are, the presence which is free from everything. That is objectified. The next question is this presence in whom things are objectified. Is this presence unique just to me? Like, is that awareness unique just to you? And we said no. We explained this in two ways. We said first, if it was different to someone else, this means it's only unique to you, which implies it's different. Then the only way you can say it is different is if you attribute a value or an attribute to that awareness. You say awareness is blue or awareness is red. But whatever attribution you put onto it belongs to either the body or the mind. This no one can deny. You want to say my awareness is expansive because I meditate all day? What are you talking about? You're talking about my mind. My mind is extremely sattvic. That's what you're really saying. So it's not awareness that is expansive. It is the attribute of the mind that feels expansive, that is feeling clear, that is feeling free. We also said, use the cup example, and we demonstrated that there is one undivided space. So you look around you, there's one undivided space. And in that one space, all objects are. However, only to the presence of the objects, it seems as though the space is divided. Only to the presence of the cup, it seems as though the space inside the cup is divided from the outside space. We also shown that. The second inquiry we did was, what is the cause of the universe? That was the first inquiry, by the way. Now, the above inquiry does not tell us or doesn't answer where all objects came, because all our life we find ourselves in objects all around us. That's all we see, objects. Talk about beads, just objects. It also doesn't answer how these objects seemingly divide the undivisible awareness, the undivisible presence, the undivisible consciousness. And to explain this, we say that any effect just means product, anything that I perceive, has two causes. Maker is the first. We said that if the whole universe is intelligently put together, whatever level you see, look at ants now, you look at the way they carry their food, you look at any animal, you look at any law and order, gravity, North Pole is always north, it never mixes itself with south. You look at any aspect of life, there's an intelligence, and that intelligence puts together forms to create the next successive assembly. So this implies there must be, thus, the maker must be all knowledge. Because not only is there knowledge of the Mars put together, but also solar planet, the stars, the moon, the relation of galaxies and your body and how everything moves in the body. So this means the maker thus must be all knowledge. Not only knows about your body, but knows about the earth, knows about the sun, knows about the moon, knows about other galaxies, time and space, everything. For example, the pot maker only has knowledge about pottery. Maybe a good pot maker, but still that knowledge is limited just to pot maker. And because he has pot knowledge, he's able to make a pot. the world of pottery. But because the maker of the entire universe has all knowledge, he's able to create put together the entire universe, including the pot itself. Because the pot maker is nothing but knowledge belonging to all knowledge. Then the second is material. You also need material to create. We said that if there is material that is separate from the maker being all knowledge, all power, then that implies there was time, space, and objects in existence already. And we already demonstrated that that brings infinite regression of logical problems if you start thinking like this. Because where was that time, that material before the universe came? So therefore, the only possibility, as we explained, was that the material and the maker are not two. They're the one same cause, called Ishvara. And thus, Ishvara is in and through every form in the universe, including your form right now. Hair, eyes, sound that you're hearing now, also Ishvara. If there's some smell in the kitchen, that smell is also Ishvara, because that is knowledge of spice, knowledge of ginger, knowledge of sound, like a car horn, knowledge of bird. The next question is, if Ishvara is everywhere, then how come I don't see Ishvara? And we said that if you look into any form whatsoever, right now, look at your finger, your nail, you see that it is nothing but form within form. Smaller and smaller and smaller. And where do you end up ultimately? If you use normal knowledge, as we explained, if you use at the level of quantum physics, they would say the smallest is, for example, the quark. But if you look into quantum physics, they would themselves say very specifically, what we do not know yet is what is the ultimate building block of life. What is the building block, the smallest of the smallest, from which everything is made? They themselves state they do not know. That's why there's this constant activity of postulation. The latest is string theory, which I gotta say I'm quite impressed with string theory, because string theory at least has the aspect of their intelligent strings coming together to form quarks and then the next successive assembly upwards. So it's amazing how the human mind, when they put themselves into one task, they kind of dig closer and closer to what the Upanishads have already been saying all along. Quite impressive with string theory, because I say it's intelligence. So this is where Vedanta takes over now. So where quantum physics stops, Vedanta continues. So what does Vedanta say? They say that the final building block of life, of everything in this universe, is not an object. It's not any particular particle. Because if you look into any particle, you will see that it's resolved into something smaller. So therefore, the final building block is all knowledge, all power. That's where Vedanta now helps us to understand what puts everything together, no matter how small it is. And this intelligence is what organizes every level of particle, whatever form you happen, whatever mithya level you happen to be talking about, that is where that intelligence is organizing it to create the next mithya form, whether upwards or downwards. Therefore, as we concluded last week, there is only intelligence appearing as objects, as material. There's no such thing as material in this universe. There's only knowledge that appears as material, as forms, as mithya. And the next question, then we said, was, where was all knowledge, all power, this grand order called Ishvara, before the universe, before time, space, and objects manifested? Where was that? And we said that that same intelligence was there in potential. And then we used the metaphor. We said that today you have a potential for tonight's dream world. Right now, that potential is in you. You could be doing anything you want, but that potential never leaves you. So that potential is yet to manifest when the right time comes. And when it does, then all of the world, according to whatever is stored in your particular mind, will flourish. In the same way, the entire world that we see is a reflection of all of the thoughts and karmas of every jiva, of every individual. That's the world we see today, is a reflection of the collective karmas of all jivas. Just like the world in your dream world is a reflection of whatever is stored in your mind. So this means that the same entity, in this case you, is present. And in that entity, there's a potential for the world. A world, a beautiful world of rainbows and galaxies and quantum physics and Vedanta and Buddhism and Jainism and you name it, it's all there. And then we find ourselves studying this world that is all arising from one entity. And then we write books about it. Some of them become New York Times bestsellers. We make lots of money. All of that a reflection of the one intelligence, one cause. So this means there's no start of creation because that entity is always true. Or should we say the entity is always true, always available. Thus creation is cyclical. Now, then we explain what if I don't know about the one cause of the universe? Right? What's the implications of that if I don't know? The implications are, even if I do know about category number 2, that is the nature of I, which is generally what most of the teachings about today, like your consciousness, even if I do know that, then there will still be continued seeking, continued fascination with the world, because you still find yourself with objects around you. And you go, well, what about these other systems? They've got something valid to say. I better go and check them out just in case I missed something out. So the seeking doesn't stop, even if I have fully ascertained the nature of who I am, if I do not know the one cause from which everything comes. Otherwise, I'll be fascinated until I come to the one cause. Until I know the one cause, I can say, no matter what you show me, how good it is, how fascinating it is, I know it all resolves into time and space. Time and space all resolves into the one cause called Ishvara. Thus, no thank you. Thus, Vedanta helps us to stop that search because you understand everything is from the one cause. So the implications are huge in terms of life, in terms of peace. So if I don't know this one cause, then I get sucked into the world. Small things become big, because you want to check it out. You want to learn about it, just in case there's something more there for me. We also lose our childlike beginner's mind, like, I know it all. I don't need to know. I'll figure it all out. So we lose that also because we have no connection to that Ishvara. Therefore, the evolution gets hindered. What else happens if I do not know the one cause of the universe? If I don't see the relevance of Ishvara, let's put it that way, if I don't see how is Ishvara relevant in my life, then what happens is we start to exhibit heavy traits. Think of anything heavy that a person bears, like lack of humility, like superiority. I know, you don't need to tell me. Let me argue. Let me tell you a better way. Lack of humility. Another is living in a bubble. You know that time when you meet someone and then there's something like there's some resistance. You just can't get along with them. It's like they're so above the scriptures, above the guru, above the teacher, above the world. It's like, I just can't get near them. It's like, wait a minute, I just want to relate to you as a human being, but I can't. There's some invisible energy that I just can't penetrate. Look at Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna is the Lord of the universe. He didn't put himself above Arjuna. He's his friend, common person. That's what we're talking about. Ordinary humility. Or questionable integrity. You know, I just can't trust this person. Why? Because there's no dharma. If I don't have connection to Ishvara, then it's likely I don't have connection to dharma. If I don't have connection to dharma, then how can you trust me? Right? Because then I can easily lie and cheat and there's no consequences for me. Therefore, trustworthiness is reduced in such a person. I can't find myself to be trusting him or her. I just can't trust them. So this means that if I do not know Ishvara, no matter how much the person knows who they are, I do not want to hang around with that person. I would rather hang around with someone who is in connection with Ishvara's laws and orders, who is fully abiding in Dharma, because at least you can communicate with them like a human being. Poor manners, no culture, no consideration. Like, wait a minute, I'm a human being, I've got feelings here. I'm vulnerable. I'm sharing my vulnerabilities and you're discarding them as just illusion. It's all mithya. Can't relate to someone like that. So knowing Ishvara means I'm including everyone instead of excluding. I'm considerate, patient, gentler, kinder. Right? So we can speak about compassion all we want, but it's only until I know the one thread in and through all beads, only then will I truly exercise compassion spontaneously, naturally, without making it sound like, be compassionate, just be compassionate, be compassionate. It's not about an affirmation, it's about an understanding. And the only way I can practice it spontaneously is by understanding the one thread that connects both you and me right now. Or let's put it this way, if I do recognize Ishvara, then I also recognize every thought, every word that you say to me, every postulation comes from the one cause. Therefore, I am at peace with the entire world from there on. You put me into a library of books. If I don't know Ishvara, what I'm going to say? Wow, so much to know, right? So much to know, so many books. If I do know Ishvara, then what? You go into a library and you say what? Wow, look at the beauty of Ishvara's all knowledge, all power. We got some poetry over there, some art over there, some comedy here, different cultures over there. All of that resolves into the one cause which I am not apart from. Therefore, the relationship changes immediately if I am in touch with that one thread that connects everything here. Having now summarized what we've covered so far, let's cover the final part of the oneness equation. So far, it seems that we talked about Ishvara. It seems that the one cause called all knowledge, all power is the truth, is the final truth of everything, called Satyam. Right? So far, because we said that everything resolves into Ishvara. So we say, okay, so Ishvara is the final reality. However, there is one more final reality which even Ishvara depends for its being. And now we will investigate what that reality is. We will demonstrate this by providing you with the oneness equation. What is this oneness equation? It comes from Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6. The word Tat Tvam Asi. It's mentioned there 9 times by the father, Udalaka. So what is this Tat Tvam Asi? The word Tat, so it's 3 words, right? Tat Tvam Asi. And what is this? The equation for oneness, which we will now go through. Tat refers to, Tat means that. What is that? That means the cause of the universe, Ishvara. Tvam in Sanskrit means you. So Tvam is referring to the nature of the individual, which is Sat Chit. That is awareness, conscious presence. Not you, the person, but the category number 2, which we have already gone through. So when we say Tvam, we're referring to the nature of the individual, whose nature is Sat Chit, conscious presence or awareness. Asi, are. So that Ishvara, you, the individual, Asi, are. So you, that is the individual whose nature is awareness, are equated to Ishvara. So now you're going, how is that possible? How am I right now listening to you equated to Ishvara? How can I, limited knowledge, limited power, be equated to Ishvara, all knowledge, all power? So we better not stop the inquiry here because it's totally incomplete right now. That's why the Upanishads teaching, it takes you through a step process. So firstly, and by the way, this is where all of the conflict happens in Advaita Vedanta. So when suppose now someone hears you say, I am Ishvara. He's going to say, that's blasphemy, man. What is this Advaita Vedanta? It's blasphemy. And this is so common, you hear this. And by the time the person says that, there's no way you can explain what it actually means. So this means they'll walk away with the wrong impression of Advaita. So we need to explain that. Firstly, we need to acknowledge there is a difference between knowledge power between the individual and Ishvara. So we acknowledge that. You only know so much. Ishvara knows everything. You only have so much power. You can only pick up maybe 50 kilograms. Ishvara can hold the entire earth. Try doing that. However, this difference that we speak of, it is only apparent. And we can resolve this apparent difference through an inquiry, which we'll now go through. So the question is now, how is it apparent? How is this difference between me and Ishvara apparent? Well, we'll demonstrate with a simple formula. E equals mc squared. This just means, when you say E, it just means energy equals m matter. Right, so it just means energy equals matter. Just an example. Now, before resolving this formula, the two sides look dissimilar, right? On one side, you got energy. On the other side, you got matter. You're like, well, where's the correlation? One's energy, one's matter. So before resolving, they look dissimilar. But after resolving, then you come to understand that matter transforms into energy and vice versa after resolving. Therefore, the difference between the two sides is apparent. It's not real. So the difference is not real. Because once you resolve it, you go, ah, now I understand how energy equals matter. But before I didn't. So this means that the understanding is not pointed out directly in the formula. The formula is just showing you what's true. Energy equals matter. Okay, thank you very much. But it's not telling you how it is true. You understand the difference? So to understand how it is true, that takes place through the environment of student-teacher. In Vedanta, that's called the Guru-Shishya Parampara. So let's test some basic knowledge. I'm going to ask you a question regarding what an equation is. Is 5 equals 5 an equation? You must also say your answer. Explain.
Yes.
Okay, 5 equals 5. Is that an equation?
Yes.
Okay, why? See, I'm trying to get you to understand what an equation actually means.
Maybe not.
You've got two objects which have been shown to be similar or to be exactly the same.
Okay, but have I understood anything about it? Because 5 equals 5, I'm just actually get like, okay, 5 equals 5, thank you very much. Is that causing me to understand anything? No. All I'm seeing is 5 equals 5. Thank you very much. I'm hungry. Let's go for a dinner. I'm not understanding anything. I'm just seeing the final product. Did you have your hand up, Robert?
I was just going to say that it's only an equation if you're showing that something is equivalent to something else, not the same as, but equivalent to.
Okay. So it's okay. It is equivalent, but we still have to arrive. How is it equivalent? So, okay, what about this? Is individual equals Ishvara? Is that an equation? Individual equals Ishvara.
No.
Okay, why not?
It's just a statement.
Good. I love that answer. Just a statement. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm so happy. Okay, so individual equals Ishvara is just a statement like, oh, wow, individual equals Ishvara. That's good. Now, give me something to read. Give me something to watch interesting. I want to hear these boring statements. So we're not interested in statements. We're interested in understanding. What makes it so? Now, question. Is 3 plus 2 equals 6 minus 1? Is that an equation?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're different things that can be shown to resolve into equivalent things.
Oh, good. Okay. So Lloyd said there are two different. So on both sides, you got two different things. 3 plus 2 on the left side. On the right side, 6 minus 1. But they both come to what? 5. Now, is the 5 inside the equation? Do you see 5 anywhere there?
No.
No. But if you resolve the left side, you come to 5. And you go through the process to resolve the right side, you come to 5. That is what we call figuring out the equation to oneness. It is not about 5 equals 5, but rather seeing how one side is true and the other side is true. So even though they both look different, 3 plus 2 has no correlation to 6 minus 1. Upon solving it, there's actually no difference. That's exactly what we're doing right now. And what happens if you make a mistake on one of those sides, either the left or the right?
It's a false equation.
Yeah. And you're going to be convinced you got it right, correct? It's going to be like, yeah, I figured it out. So if I make one single mistake, either on the left side or the right side, then I'm going to say, yep, solved it. Then what's going to happen? I'm going to be in a deeper delusion than before I even started out. I might as well just not have approached the equation in the first place, just left it alone. But most of us try to figure this out on our own. We go, no, I can figure it out. I've got internet. Google, who am I? Google enlightenment. And then the person goes through these, like, wow, it's all there. And they get something wrong in the equation, either the left side or the right side. And then a whole life living in one big bubble called private enlightened world. Convinced. You can't even approach them anymore because they're enlightened. They know everything. Oh, no, you don't understand, I went through this process. I'm there. Go back to the original. What happens if I don't know about Ishvara? Lack of humility. Let's translate this into now oneness. What do we need to discover? We need to discover what is the relationship between Tat, that is Ishvara, and Tvam, that is the individual that I find myself to be right now. We need to discover that. So far, what do we know? We know that Ishvara equals all knowledge, all power. And we know that individual that I find myself to be, Tvam, equals limited knowledge, limited power. We know that so far. And what is our goal in this session? Our goal is to find the resolving point between these two apparent differences. So this means I need to discover the identity between the individual and Ishvara. I need to find the resolving point between the individual and Ishvara. I need to discover how am I Ishvara right now, not tomorrow in the future or when the person dies, but right now. So let's start with the right side of the equation. So Tat Tvam, so Tvam is more to the right. So therefore we're going to start on the right side of the equation. And so what do we know so far about Tvam, about you? We know that individual intelligence depends upon consciousness or awareness for its existence. Because without consciousness, there's no thought. Who's there to know about the thought if there's no consciousness? Like, what is there to illumine your thought? Therefore, the content of every thought, emotion, cognition, memory, I sense is consciousness. All the while, consciousness remains independent of that intelligence. It also remains present in and through thought and silence, as we explained in the 3 states last week. What is the waking state? It's nothing but thoughts all day long. The moment you wake up, that is the waking state. It's just thought after thought. Consciousness is in and through all of that. That's why you know about your thoughts. That's why you objectify your thoughts. I have a thought. I want to share it with you. Deep sleep, no thoughts at all. Not even the mind is there. No cognition, no memory, no I sense, nothing. And yet we objectify deep sleep also. Thus, consciousness is also there. So consciousness remains free of thoughts or lack of thoughts. That is the absence of thoughts or silence. I am now in a state of meditative silence. I feel so free. And then I come out of it. Now I'm back. Oh, it's not as pleasant as it was, but I'm still there. I was there in that silence as much as I am still present here when there's that silence is gone. So the consciousness never got affected by the silence. The consciousness never got affected by the waking state, the dream state, or the deep sleep state. So therefore, the question is, what is that one irreducible reality without which there is no individual intelligence? Presence of consciousness, awareness. Okay. Now let's go to the left side. Tat, Ishvara. So far we've seen about Ishvara. Let's cover some points about Ishvara. We've seen that Ishvara is all knowledge, all power. And this power is constantly undergoing change to create, to sustain, and to transform every particle in the universe, including your body right now. White blood cells are being created, bacteria is being destroyed, right? Heat energy is being converted to, or the light energy of the sun is being converted to photosynthesis energy. So all of this is being created, sustained, and destroyed every second. If you take any object in this universe right now, let's take a worm. It requires lots of intelligence to create that worm, right? Do you know how to create a worm? No. So to create that worm requires intelligence to put it together. So this means wherever there is an object, at any level that you look at, that's where intelligence is. Because that worm is put together. It's nothing but particles put together in a certain way to create worm form. Do you know how many cells is in your body right now? So what does that mean? The body is not yours. Because if it was yours, you would know exactly everything about your body, where things are, how they work, how they don't work, but we don't know. So obviously the body is also created by that one intelligence and not myself. We also said that Ishvara is the total intelligent order. For example, gravity, right? All of the laws and orders that you observe around you in both manifest and potential. Now, manifest is easy, you just take a pen and you drop it and it falls down. So the gravity is there. So the intelligent order of gravity is present. It's working. But what about potential? How will your body look like in 5 years? Do you know? No. But what's going to happen in 5 years? Is your body going to get older or younger? Older. So that means the skin is going to have more damage. The look is going to be different. Now, are you like pressing buttons and you go, okay, let me adjust and let me make the face older and everything else that correlates with aging? No. It is happening whether you like it or not. So the potential of your face in 5 years is already there. And that intelligence thus is in and through the past, present, and future. And you don't control that. So the potential is there. And you don't have to do anything. You just have to remain as you are, as a human being. And what happens? Aging happens of its own accord. Therefore, the potential is also there. That's why we age. So the potential for aging already exists. That's why I age. We also, yes, Kritika?
Andre, isn't Ishwar supposed to be a karta as well as a bhokta? So if he's a karta, then doesn't that sort of imply that he's not doing anything? It's just that everything is happening on its own.
Yeah. Akarta or karta?
A karta and a bhokta.
Yeah, okay, so Akarta Bhokta is referring to all knowledge, all power, which always remains unaffected by the world. Just like you remain Akarta Abhokta as a entity in whom the dream world happens. So the dream world does not affect you. In the same way, the world that we experience does not affect Ishvara. Thus, Ishvara is Akarta Abhokta.
Yeah, so are we, isn't it like saying that it's not Ishvara because of whom we are aging, we are just aging?
Yeah, it's because of Ishvara's laws and orders, which are not apart from this intelligent grand order.
So even though you've got unlimited potentials in what you could look like in 5 years' time, depending on whether you sit out in the sun every day,
Yeah.
or whether you put cream on your face, or whether you eat rubbish, or whether you exercise, there's an unlimited amount of potentials what that face will look like in 5 years' time. Accidents, could go blind.
Yeah.
But every one of those potentials, and that's the omnipotence and the unlimited power of Ishvara.
Yeah.
Because but that's combined with your activity in the present is the only thing that could actually dictate, but it's still the same.
Yeah, and so what Martin is also saying is that, see, how you're going to look like in 5 years also depends on not only the order of aging, the biological order, but also the order of, suppose, the psychological order. So the psychological order, maybe I'm stressed out. So in 5 years, I'm going to look like trash because, it's a result of my psychology today. So all of these orders are working together simultaneously to produce the final face in 5 years' time. But the point is, I'm not the one that's doing it. It's already being done for me. Okay, so that's what potential means. We also said that The Ishvara manifests itself also in a form of cause and effect. And cause and effect just means the present results. That means the present results are matched to past corresponding actions. So whatever you're experiencing today, that is matching it perfectly what has happened in the past. You're not doing that. It's happening by itself. It's done for you. We also said that there's no final material in the universe because every form resolves in time-space, and time-space further resolves into all knowledge, all power, which existed even before time-space objects came. That's why we say there's only intelligence, that potential, appearing as the universe that we're experiencing today. Example, in the Mundaka Upanishad, there's a nice metaphor. It says that if you look at one big conflagration, one big flame, what do you see? Sparks. Are those sparks different from the flame? No. So the essence of those sparks, no matter how many sparks there are, that essence is not apart, is not separate from the one total flame. So wherever you see the spark, its inherent nature is of the one flame. In the same way, all of the names, forms that we see, the essence of those names, forms is of the one grand order, which we call Ishvara, all knowledge, all power. Now, for this intelligence to put together, this Ishvara intelligence to put together the entire universe, it requires what? Can you put together things unless you're conscious of what you're actually doing? Try getting a genius who's in a coma to create a musical piece. So even though he's in a coma, that knowledge is there, but it is useless. It is only when the person is conscious, only then he can make use from that intelligence and create a masterpiece. In the same way, all knowledge, all power depends on consciousness to create the entire universe of names and forms. Just like you and I, as individuals, depend on being conscious to use our limited knowledge to create what we know and then enjoy that creation.
Surely, even in the coma, the consciousness is there.
Yeah, it is there. Okay, good.
It's just that it's not in the waking state. So the genius, which is part of the intellect, is not in the waking state, and so can't be applied to write the symphony.
Yeah, the coma is a little bit different because now it's a different conversation. The coma just means the mind, the gross mind, the brain is damaged. So it's unable to receive the mind. It's unable to harbor the subtle body. So until the physical brain repairs itself, only then the subtle body the mind can actually function. And then the person goes, I'm back. Okay. So again, the question is, what is the one irreducible reality without which all knowledge, all power cannot put things together?
Pure awareness.
Consciousness, awareness. No different than for the individual jiva. Tvam requires consciousness. Tat requires consciousness. So now let's bring this point of resolution. Having now explained Tat and Tvam, let's bring both sides of the equation using this word Asi, because we haven't talked about Asi yet. We talked about Tat, we talked about Tvam. Let's talk about Asi. So the point of resolution is consciousness, and this consciousness is called Brahman. And this consciousness is explained by three words: Sat, Chit, Ananda. What is Sat? Sat means existence or presence. It just means the isness of things. Bottle is present. Pen is present. Face is present. Hair is present. Air is present. Clay is present. Earth is present. Knowledge is. Time, space is. Quark is. Subatomic particle is. DNA is. DNA is present. Cell is present. Heart is present. Human is present. So all of these names, forms change, no matter how small they are. But the isness remains true. The presence remains true. In whose presence you can even say these names and forms, like knowledge, like particle and DNA and hair and so on. Cup is, suppose this is a cup. Cup is. Even if you don't say is, you're still saying is, whether you say is or not. Because just to say cup, what are you implying? The cup is present. Now, suppose this cup gets destroyed and I turn it into ash. What am I going to say now? Ash is. So the name form changed. The cup changed to ash. But what's remaining the same? Presence, isness. Cup is, ash is. So this presence or isness or existence of things is called sat. Is remains true in any situation. And in that isness, mithya names and forms collapse into, they resolve into. Just like the cup name form resolves into ash. But the isness is true. Chit, sat chit. Chit means consciousness. Neither, what do we discuss about consciousness? Neither individual intelligence nor all intelligence, that means limited or unlimited intelligence, neither of them can exist without consciousness, without conscious presence, without awareness. They cannot put things together unless there is a conscious principle in which they can come together and create cup. Cup is. How is a cup created? By intelligence. Intelligence is. How does intelligence create the cup? Because there is consciousness, because there is chit. So sat and chit are inseparable. And the glory, the beauty, the nature of this conscious existence called sat chit is ananda. Limitless, all knowledge, all power. This is why we often ask the question, oh, I don't want to die, man. I don't want to just be aware. I don't want to be just Brahman. I'm just aware, conscious. I want to be aware of something. You hear that before? Hundreds of times. What is Brahman? Sat Chit Ananda. The nature of Brahman is limitlessness, limitless knowledge, limitless power. Therefore, Sat Chit Ananda is the final Satyam, which everything depends on, including Ishvara. And you just happen to be Sat Chit Ananda, the one into whom everything resolves into, including Ishvara. Yes, Meena.
Could you please explain a little bit more about Ananda? What is Ananda?
Ananda just means all knowledge, all power, as I've been explaining in the category number 3. Another name for Ishvara is Ananda. Another name for Maya is Ananda. Limitlessness.
We were saying that Brahman is equal to Sat Chit Anand.
Yeah, so to
right?
describe Brahman, we describe it in 3 words, Sat Chit Ananda.
Right. And I thought all knowledge and all power is also equal to Brahma.
Yes.
Is that not so?
Yes, all knowledge, all power is Ananda. And the nature of Brahman is Ananda. Therefore, they're inseparable. Consciousness and all knowledge, all power are inseparable.
Okay. And this Ananda does not mean the joy, the blissfulness.
Some schools will describe it as joy and kind of like something exciting to talk about. Wow, joy. Okay, we can say joy and all that. But from my particular school, the Arsha Vidya from Swami Dayananda, I just stick with the word limitlessness, all knowledge, all power.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I say joy, what's the limited mind gonna think now? Oh, okay, it's a feeling, right? So it's kind of like gonna take the wrong meaning out of it. Okay, so what is Satchit Ananda? The awareness in whose presence I come to know about both Ishvara and my own body. Do you know about Ishvara? Yeah, because you're seeing Ishvara right now. Your head should have went like this when I asked you that question. There's only Ishvara here. Do you know Ishvara? Yes. How do you know Ishvara? Because things is. Objects is, body is, world is, feelings is, monitor is, everything is. And I'm also conscious. And I'm seeing everything in terms of objects. And what are objects? Nothing but all knowledge, all power put together intelligently through this intelligence. What is Satchit Ananda? Awareness in whose presence I come to know not only about Ishvara, which is my very nature as Ananda, but also about my own body. So let's start with the hierarchy. Not that there is a hierarchy, but if there is one, just for the sake of understanding. So stage one, from limitless consciousness called Brahman, there is Ananda potential to manifest the universe. This unmanifest potential is called Maya. Okay, so from limitless Brahman, there is an unmanifest potential. That potential is called Maya. All knowledge, all power. When this potential manifests as the universe, that same potential is called Ishvara, which we call God. And Ishvara manifests individuals called Jiva. And you happen to be one of them. Jiva, Ishvara, Maya, Brahman. So wherever there is Jiva, there is Brahman. Wherever there is Maya, there is Brahman. Wherever there is Ishvara, there is Brahman. There is only Brahman. So just like you, for example, as a Ishvara of your dream, you manifest characters called Jivas. I'm sure you remember your dream last night. There were Jivas in your dream. Who manifested all of them? You. In that same way, Ishvara manifests Jivas called you and I, that we're now speaking about that very cause. Just like our own dream characters in our dream, speaking about, who's the creator of this dream? Oh, let's go to classes and talk about the creator. Let's talk about Ishvara. You are that. So this means that the one non-dual consciousness called Brahman appears from two different standpoints. From the standpoint of the microcosm, appears as the Jiva, the body, mind, sense complex, you. And from the standpoint of the macrocosm, that same one non-dual consciousness called Brahman appears as Ishvara. And what is Ishvara? Time, space, and laws governing all forms, including jivas. All the while, consciousness remains free, unchanged, whether there is a manifest or an unmanifest. And what is consciousness? Sat Chit Ananda. So consciousness is enjoying itself as limitlessness.
Sorry, can you say again about what you say about Ishvara? It's time, space, and laws.
Time, space, and all of the laws governing objects in the universe. And one of those objects also is you, the Jiva. Okay, now I want to apply this to real life to make it a little bit more graspable. The question is, how do you see oneness in all things? Like right now, you have a husband, you have a wife, you have a child. The question is, looking at them right now, how do I see oneness in all beings right now? So we make an inquiry. We say, we recognize that wherever there is individuality, right? That person is an individual. Wherever there is individuality, there is all knowledge, all power. That is not only putting together this body, but it's also putting together that body which I'm now observing. And that same all knowledge, all power was available even before the universe came. And what is the truth of all knowledge, all power that we just speak of? Sat Chit Ananda. How do I see oneness in everyone, in my own brother, sister, mother, father? The intelligence that is putting that together, that form, is the same intelligence that is putting this form, that's causing these eyes to look at that. And that intelligence resolves into Sat Chit Ananda. And I am not away from Sat Chit Ananda. Yes, Dave.
I think the way I see it is the consciousness in me is the same as the consciousness in you and the same in everyone. So the same consciousness is pervading everywhere. That's why we are all connected. But if I see you as on a material point of view, then we are different. They're two different matters.
True. Yeah, so it depends
but
where
matter doesn't exist anyway, because I think that's what you tried to explain before.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as matter. If you look at it scientifically.
It's all, yeah, good. So Dave, what he's saying is there's only knowledge appearing as matter. And that object, which I'm looking at, is made and put together by the same intelligence that is putting this object. So whatever is making this object go and put my hand and appreciate my wife or husband and go, oh, I'm so lucky to be alive and to have them in my life, that is only possible. Why? Because of all knowledge, all power that is now making this body alive. That same all knowledge, all power is making them alive right now. And where does all knowledge, all power resolve into? That one same consciousness, which is the final truth, the final satyam of everything. Now, it would be ideal if both of them can recognize all knowledge, all power in each other. That would be in a perfect world. So, usually it's kind of like only one of them goes, oh, okay, all knowledge, all power. Yep. Wow, I can appreciate that. But they're probably only seeing the same old person in you, in a perfect world. So let's do an order. Order, Brahman. What does Brahman mean? That which is big and limitless. I'll get to Meena soon. Brahman means that which is big and limitless. Next, Maya. What is Maya? Ananda in potential. That means all knowledge, all power in potential. What is Maya? Nature of Brahman. So Maya and Brahman are not apart. Then Ishvara. Ishvara knows that all that is here is one, appearing as many. Jiva does not know that all that is here is one, appearing as the many. That's why we go to a teaching to discover this in the first place. And right now, this second, all four are true. This is why Vedanta cannot be contradicted by any logic. Because all four are true from a different standpoint. Brahman is true from the absolute standpoint. Maya is true from the standpoint of the unmanifest. Ishvara is true from the standpoint of the manifest. Jiva is true from the standpoint of the individual. Meena, your hands are shaking. Yes.
I think the same question, when we placed these four components into an hierarchy, my question is like, Brahma is Anand, consciousness is present in all the stages, right?
Yeah.
And consciousness the attribute of consciousness is limitless.
It's not an attribute. It's more like consciousness and limitlessness are not two.
Yeah. So how come this Brahman, this consciousness, reduced itself to a limited entity called Jiva? If I'm Brahm also, then how am I limited? Why am I limited?
We'll just
I
explain.
am essentially consciousness, right?
Yeah, but it's apparent. We just said it's apparent limitation. It's not actual limitation. Okay, maybe this is going to help. Okay. I'm going to put this down. Address Mina. Okay, let's use this example to help out. Remember how we started out the inquiry with the wave ocean example to open up the possibility of oneness. So let's bring that back. Hearing this knowledge, the wave can now say, or the wave can understand that the wave can understand itself as the water, and the wave can also understand that the ocean is the water. Okay, so the wave is limited, apparently, by the form. The ocean is limitless because it is consisting of all forms. That means all forms are inclusive in the one ocean. But the wave can understand, despite my apparent limitation, what is the truth of myself? The water. That same water is the truth of what? The entire ocean of every form. Meaning the wave can now say there is only water as though appearing in the form of waves and in the form of the entire ocean. There is only water. There is only consciousness appearing as though 10 million other name forms, but they all resolve into the one same consciousness. And once the wave properly understands these three orders of reality, the wave, that is the Jiva, the ocean, that is Ishvara, and the water, that is Brahman, then the wave can now say, finally, I am the ocean. Only once it understands these three realities, the wave can now say, I am everything that is here, because the content of both the wave and the ocean is what?
Water.
What is the content of the Jiva? What is the content of this world? Ishvara. What is the content? Where does Ishvara resolve into? Consciousness.
Maya.
Well, you can say that. Ishvara resolves into Maya, and Maya resolves into Brahman. So it's not like they're apart. We're just talking about different words to explain a reality from the one reality from different standpoints. Okay, and this very understanding is called moksha that we're now talking about. So what is moksha that the scriptures talk about? Moksha just means the truth of me is the truth of everything. We're talking about a wise person now. While alive, my own limitlessness is understood because the truth of me is what? The one consciousness, which is in and through everything. So while alive, I understand that I am limitless in spite of apparent limitation of the individual. Whereas what do we try to do? We go, oh, I'm limitless. Yeah, but what about this body? So the wave understands that the truth of itself is what? Water, which pervades the entire ocean. But the wave can also accept I am apparently limited by the form as long as I am alive. So that form will continue as long as there is a aliveness to the body. Yes?
So I have, in my understanding, there's no calibration, because when you give the example of wave and water,
yeah,
I understand the concept. But when I apply it on myself, like me as Meena, me as Jiva,
okay.
I don't understand it.
Okay.
Is it because to understand this, realization has to happen?
No,
right?
Okay, look, I'll explain it right now. Okay, so let's apply it to you right now. So Mina said, I understand it to water and wave. Okay, easy. How do I apply it to myself? Okay, Mina, what puts your body together? What puts all of our bodies together? All knowledge, all power.
Yes.
What puts my body together? All knowledge, all power. What puts this entire world together? All knowledge, all power. What puts your brain cells now working, neurons firing to have this conversation? All knowledge, all power. Are you doing that? No.
Yes.
So there's only all knowledge, all power. What was there before the universe? All knowledge, all power. In order to create the universe, there needs to be what? Consciousness. You cannot put anything together unless there is awareness. For that intelligence to intelligently put Mina together, to put anybody together, to put the world together. So all knowledge, all power resolves into consciousness. So wherever there is all knowledge, all power in the form of body, in the form of world, in the form of thought, that's exactly where what? Consciousness is. Are you conscious? If you weren't conscious, you wouldn't be having this conversation. Thus, everything resolves into consciousness itself.
Then I have the same question, that why I feel limited if I'm consciousness?
Yeah, because, okay, so why does the wave feel limited? Because it is still looking at itself as the wave. It's refused, let's not put it that way, but it's yet to understand that the reality of itself is the one same water. Just like the reality of you is the one is one of the many appearances of the one consciousness. Remember, we said that all knowledge, all power appears only as objects, but all of those objects resolve into all knowledge, all power. So all appearances resolve into what? All knowledge, all power, which resolves into what? Consciousness. So all that you're ever experiencing is the one reality appearing as the many. And you just happen to be one of those many. So wherever you see, whatever you think of, there is only reality, the one reality appearing as many. Even the thought that you're about to now say to me, is that apart from all knowledge, all power?
No.
The doubt that you're about to have and say, yeah, but what about? Is that away from all knowledge, all power?
No.
This means you can never be away from what is already true right now. So how do I understand myself to be the one reality which is in and through everything? Just by the mere fact that I am. Because my amness, my existence is Sat Chit. And what's the definition of the final reality? Sat Chit, conscious awareness. Dave?
I think when you see yourself as a wave, then you're limited to the wave. But when you see yourself as water, you're the whole thing. It's a perception.
That's true. However, it's not as easy just to say kind of water wave. You know, it's kind of easy that way.
We just caught in the boundary of our body, mind, and intellect. I think that's what's so difficult for us to understand, like the water and the wave, because we are so conscious of the body, mind, and intellect all the time that this is separate from that, and our actions are different, our thoughts are different, so we tend to see more differences than similarities in the world.
Okay, that gave me another thought.
Or maybe
yes.
Maybe it's because when we think about or talk about Ishvara, we have the perception that it's like a superhero who has all the power and all the knowledge and can do everything, right? And we as an individual are very limited.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the, here we are concluding that we are the same. We are consciousness, we are Brahma.
But isn't that a false notion to think of it as a superhero? Because the very idea of putting the notion of a superhero is putting a form onto all knowledge and all power, and it's formless. It's omnipotence. It's unlimited.
Okay, is this form? This is a form, yes. Is this form away from the material?
No.
So wherever there is form, that's exactly where the one content of everything is. So even this pot saying now, oh, you know, I don't understand myself as the one content of everything. Even that word, even the word I-D-O-N-T, that is also the one content, which is the reality of yourself. So no matter how much you talk about yourself, you're only ever talking about yourself. The one content, which is the truth of everything. Okay. What is non-moksha? Non-moksha is when the wave is yet, it continues living as the wave. Why? Because it is yet to recognize these two more realities, the ocean and the water. Until then, the individual lives in samsara. Samsara just means caught up in my individuality, caught up in my form. I am this spot, I am this spot. I don't understand how I am the clay. But even to say, I don't understand how I am the clay, who's saying that? The clay itself. You're never away, whether you have doubts or not, you're never away from what is true right now. That's why we say moksha is about owning up to what is true right now. But what do? We create another doubt. But to create a doubt, it's immediately stepping out of what is true. Okay. So what is non-moksha? That is, I keep on being reborn to continue the notion of myself as a limited entity. Because what does science say? Nothing in this universe can be destroyed or created. Therefore, myself, as long as I remain one single form, after death, what happens? I continue my existence as an individual form, as an individual entity, because that's who I know myself to be. Whereas if I remove this notion that I am just one form, but I'm actually the clay, which is the truth of everything, then where is the reason to be reborn as another pot? Because where's my understanding now that I am not away from the whole? Okay, now I want to give you cautions about the big picture. These are the mistakes that we will often make even after hearing this knowledge. Caution number 1. The wave says, I am part of the ocean. The jiva says, I am part of Ishvara. You heard this before? I am part of God. We're all just parts. This is the most common thing you will hear. To understand this, there are 2 schools of Vedanta. The first is called Vishishta Advaita. What does Vishishta Advaita say? It says that all that is here is Ishvara. I give him that. That's true. However, you, the individual, the jiva, are one part of Ishvara. So they stop at Ishvara. They stop at the ocean. They do not consider the water. So it's not like they're wrong. They just didn't go all the way and solve the entire equation. They stopped at Tat Tvam. They did not attend to the Asi. Whereas what does the Vedanta say? What does Advaita say? Advaita says forms are different, no doubt. There's no 2 pots that are alike. But the content is one. Forms are different, no doubt. But the content of all forms is one. Bodies are different, thoughts are different. But the reality behind all thoughts is one. Meaning at the level of content, that is the clay, there is no difference between individual and Ishvara. At the level of form, there is a difference, apparent difference between individual and Ishvara. Okay, that's what the Tattvamasi is trying to show you. It's pointing out that both the jiva, the individual, and Ishvara share the one satyam reality, consciousness. Okay, caution number 2. It says, if you dig deeper into the universe, you can discover consciousness. No way. Why not? What do we say about mithya? Wherever there is mithya, that's exactly where satyam is. Suppose this pot digs into itself. Why is it digging into itself when it's already what it is? Suppose the wave tries to dig it into itself to find the water. Does that make sense? No, because it is already the water right now. So you will never discover consciousness because everything is consciousness already right now. And you just happen to be that consciousness. So the equation is not solved at the level of form. The equation is solved at the level of content in and through all forms. Everything resolves into the water. So the equation is solved at the water, not at the ocean or at the wave. Because if you stick at the wave, you will never get to the water. Always beads everywhere around me. Beads, beads. Caution 3. Even after listening to Vedanta, Advaita, the person still takes the word awareness to be the function of the mind. They mix up the word awareness and alertness. Oh, I'm alert of my thoughts. Okay, so alertness, this alertness is that awareness. No. Because sometimes you're very alert, sometimes you're not so alert, right? When you're driving a car, very sharp. I'm very sharp today, but sometimes not so sharp. And then you say, oh, I wasn't so sharp yesterday, but now I'm really sharp. So obviously you're not the alertness of the mind. That's a function of the mind. Awareness is that in whose presence the level of alertness of the mind is known. The mind is now dull. The mind is now sharp. That is a function of the mind. And then what happens is when the person mixes this awareness to be the function of the mind, that they superimpose limitlessness onto themselves, onto the mind. Then what happens? It creates this unrelatability. I cannot relate to you because you're above the world, right? You're above the scriptures. You're above the guru, above the universe. Now, the best indicator or the best antidote to this is humility. Just think of Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna is the Lord of the universe. He doesn't say, hey, Arjuna, close your mouth. I am all knowledge, all power. What do you know? Listen to me. No, he's an ordinary friend, like your neighbor, sharing his vulnerabilities like an ordinary person. There's no question of superiority here. Why? Because everything resolves into all knowledge, all power, including Arjuna, which resolves into the one same content, which is consciousness. Caution 4. If I am limitless, then I can get the world to do as I desire. Right? Because, hey, I'm limitless. I've got all the power in this world. Welcome to Law of Attraction, by the way. Huge seller, at least some time ago. Right? I can influence variables in this world according to my fancies. And if I apply some, tactics, I can get what I want. Reality check, by the way. Before 2008, financial disaster, what happened? This law of attraction was huge. And so many started to read this and apply this and go, oh, I'm going to make money. I'm going to get rich. Let's apply more law of attraction. Just think what I want. Okay. I now imagine the money coming to me. Oh, okay. I can see the one with 6 zeros. Okay. Yes, it's all happening. Then what happens? Financial disaster. Millions lost their life savings. If not millions, maybe tens of thousands, which means what? You don't control the variables of the universe. No matter how much I think that I'm in control, I'm not as much in control as I think I am. So what does this mean? I need to know, where is my boundary? Where does my boundary of control end? If I don't know that boundary, then what will I do? I will include the entire universe in my boundary. And then I will say, yes, I can get the universe to comply according to my fancies. Same thing in relationships. If the husband or wife doesn't know, or boyfriend and girlfriend doesn't know their boundaries, then one of them becomes dominating. They start to like clamp down, suffocate the other, because they have not established where does my boundary of control end. Now, how do you know where your boundary of control ends? Easy. The moment you step outside it, you can feel a sense of tension. Like there's a fear of rejection. They may not listen to me. I may not be heard. I may be disrespected. So anything that is within my boundary feels totally natural, totally okay, totally spontaneous. There's no fear of being rejected. Caution number 5. Modern teachings usually bypass Ishvara. They just say it's mithya. You don't need to know Ishvara. It's all mithya. Only focus on the nature of I. This is Neo-Advaita, by the way. So what's the rationale for this? They say that since everything is, why should I think about the cause of the universe? If everything collapses into awareness, what's the point of knowing about the cause of the universe, right? Smart rationale. The question is, why do people do this? Why do people skip Ishvara and go straight to I am limitless awareness teaching? Why does this happen? Why do you think?
Hijacked by the ego.
Hijacked. Okay. Hijacking. What could be another reason? Because I would like to know from you. Why do people skip this Ishvara? They don't want to hear anything about Ishvara and just go, no, just so, mithya. Just go straight to awareness.
They want to feel good.
Huh?
They want to feel good.
Yes, I want to. Okay, that's a good point. So it's a quick escape from past life pain and guilt. In other words, people don't respect me. It's I'm not being heard. I'm not being listened. No one likes me. The world is not going according to my likes and dislikes. My law of attraction has failed. Nothing's working out. So what do? I just dismiss the entire world and brush it off as mithya. Instant feel good like that. And on top of that, you add, oh, I am limitless. Wait a minute. I am limitless and yet I'm rejecting the world. What does limitless mean? It means the world is included. And yet I'm rejecting the world and calling myself limitless. Reality check, Robert.
The Ahamkara wants to pretend that it is Ishvara.
Yeah, good. So it creates its bubble of bigness. I like how my teacher Nima said, just imagine yourself, Earth, just zoom out. Imagine like one little dot and you're on there and nobody. And there is one person in that corner going, I'm Ishvara. Gives you a perspective. Reality check. Individuality has to undergo growth. A relative person has to undergo growth. You have to see your connection with the universe. We need to take care of our self-image. We need to address our emotional needs. We need to learn how to make proper decisions. We need to build resilience. If I don't have resilience, then one temperature, it's too hot, too cold. Oh, I can't meditate. I can't think because the temperature is not right. So all of these things need to be there for me to even find myself sitting down and listening. To get the full vision, you need to become a deserving recipient. A deserving recipient. Not someone who just walks in and goes, yep, let me hear your teaching. Yep, okay, I'll go elsewhere. It's not like that. And a deserving recipient comes through effort. That's why there's no cheating in this system. No matter how much a person tries, no cheating. Because Dharma is in full operation. If that Dharma is violated, if I disrespect the teaching and the teacher and the world, and yet I want to understand myself as the whole, how is that going to work out? Caution number 6. Since everything is one, I have to love and be equal to all. I have to love all. I have to hug all. I have to be a saint. You know that image of, oh, come here, my child. Let me hug you. It's okay. Gentle soul, you know. Never raising the voice. Always in a state of, well, I don't know even what the word you say. Fakeness. State of fakeness. Disconnected from reality. Okay, let's ask a question. Why is this incorrect? To say that you always need to love everyone and be equal to all. Where's the error in this thinking? I think 20 more minutes.
It's limiting yourself to one expression, to be always loving all.
Yeah. Okay.
You can be unlimited, you can be more than that.
Yeah, you're not being real. You're bounding yourself to a small spectrum of humanness. If I love everyone, what am I doing? I am inviting abuse into my life. Someone's being rude to me. Oh, it's okay. You know, they're just all knowledge, all power there. Love them. Because that all knowledge, all power is also in me. The entire Mahabharata war is because of what? Well, one of the contributors, Yudhishthira, always trying to be just to all, love all, including Duryodhana, constantly forgiving him. It's okay. It's okay. I love you. I love you. I'm just to all. I'm practicing Dharma. What happened? How did that work out? Kurukshetra. Therefore, we need to establish boundaries. That's where the real humanness comes in. It's not about living in a fairy tale. I am one with all and still a human being. Caution number 7. The nature of, probably one of my favorites, nature of I is achieved through a sudden flash of insight in meditation. The hardest one to get rid of. Common belief. I meditate using some special technique given to me by the Himalayan yogis. And something clicks in meditation. And from there on, everything's different. I'm now enlightened because I've meditated and something has clicked. The hardest belief to get rid of. It is equivalent to a religious person of a certain nature, I'm not saying all of them, who goes, one day in my life, Jesus is going to come down from the clouds and is going to come for rapture. He's going to pick me up in heaven. He's going to save me. Isn't that funny? Because the past generation also thought like that, and yet Jesus didn't come. This generation thinks like that, and yet Jesus doesn't come. Next generation thinks like that, Jesus doesn't come. Spiritualists do the same thing. I, the individual human being, am going to close my eyes as if it hasn't already been done by many generations before me. And if I close my eyes, I am going to get enlightened by going through this technique, as if this technique wasn't already done by generations after generations before me. So why does this happen? It happens because if you don't have knowledge, the mind flocks to path of least resistance. That's just the nature of the mind. If I don't have knowledge, what do? Whatever is easiest, I go to. If I don't have knowledge of health, what do? Fast food, anything that's tasty. If I don't have knowledge of Dharma, what do? Pursue sensual gratification, alcohol, drugs, and so on. So just like how religious people have this irrational idea that I'm going to get saved, in the same way the meditator has this idea that I'm going to get enlightened by closing my eyes, applying some technique, and something's going to happen. The Bhagavad Gita is very clear. The only way to moksha is through rigorous inquiry, analyzing every aspect of my life, not skipping anything, Meditation is just to help the mind to calm down, to become sattvic, so it can contemplate, so it can inquire. It's not meant to be the end. It's only a means. Caution 8. Now having heard this, we will now say, okay, so Ishvara is mithya. I will personally never say Ishvara is mithya, even though strictly speaking, it is true according to our understanding, but it is just irrational. There's no reason to say this. Instead, there is a much better way to say this. For example, we can say, Ishvara, the truth of Ishvara is awareness. And Ishvara knows it, but I do not. I didn't say Ishvara is mithya. I said the truth of Ishvara is awareness. And Ishvara knows it, but I, a little being, do not know that. And Ishvara, through his teaching, not mine, but through his teaching, says, hey, little child, you and me are ultimately one. You don't know it, but I do, because I am the cause of the universe, and you are yet to discover that. So I first need to acknowledge that grasping, step 1, acknowledge the fact that grasping the full picture is not entirely in my control. Why? Because the one cause that is the cause of the universe is also the cause of this mind that is trying to understand that cause. So now imagine me going, Ishvara is mithya. Who needs Ishvara? Hey, the only way I can think that is because of Ishvara. And yet I am disrespecting and putting down Ishvara and trying to understand reality. The second way we can say this, instead of saying Ishvara is mithya, is use the wave analogy. We can say, the wave can say, I am pervaded by the ocean. I am pervaded by the ocean. The jiva can say, I am pervaded by all knowledge, all power. And the reality of the one of the ocean is water. The reality of all knowledge, all power is consciousness. So wherever there is ocean, that's exactly where there is consciousness. Another way we can say this, instead of saying Ishvara is mithya, is to say both the individual and the total means Ishvara, both the individual and the total are appearances of the one reality. Think about that. Both the small individual, called the jiva, and the total reality are all appearances resolving in the one reality. I don't know that reality, but the total does. Therefore, the entire teaching comes from Ishvara. None of this comes from us. The whole Vedas comes from Ishvara. The entire understanding comes from Ishvara. So where's the question of saying Ishvara is mithya? It's all illusion, who cares? Just focus on the nature of I. So there's no question of negating appearances in Vedanta. You're only understanding the reality of those appearances is the one reality which I am not apart from. Okay, conclusion. Let's close this with some final comments. How is Vedanta different from other systems? Like, what's the difference now here? Well, other systems, we're not saying that other systems don't have their place. Everything has its place, by the way, as long as it has its place. Other systems generally have two approaches. The first is about becoming a better relative human being, that is improving the jiva, basically improving the ahamkara, the I sense. Nothing wrong with that, because as I said, you need to have confidence, you need to balance your emotions, you need to have decent sense of morale and culture and discipline in order to sit down and be interested in the bigger universe. So there's no question of putting anything away and saying there's no purpose. The second approach of systems is through negation. That means get rid of Ishvara, don't need it. Get rid of Jiva, the individual, don't need it. It's all just, resolving into awareness. That too has some relative usefulness, which I personally don't know how, but I'm sure some person will benefit and probably realize that it's probably not a complete teaching, so that they will approach for something more complete. What does Vedanta say? Vedanta does not negate, number one, apparent differences. It recognizes where all things belong. So it's about understanding. It's not about putting things aside and going, I don't want to, it's too complex for me to understand. It's just about knowing, putting things in the right place. Vedanta also points out how we miss out the one trend in and through all beads. It points that out by focusing on the beads, of course. So we miss out the intelligence. And then Vedanta says that intelligence called Ishvara has its existence in the one final reality called awareness, Brahman. And since all that you're ever looking at from birth to death is the world, which is a reflection of that all knowledge, all power, and that all knowledge, all power resolves into consciousness, thus all that is here is that one consciousness. Therefore, Brahman and Ishvara enjoy a Satya-Mithya relationship. Brahman is Satyam, the final reality. Ishvara is Mithya. So strictly speaking, these two words are different. They're not used interchangeably. Brahman specifically means awareness or consciousness, and Ishvara specifically means all knowledge, all power. Even though in most Vedanta schools, they're used interchangeably, but strictly speaking, they're not supposed to be used interchangeably. And finally, how does this now matter in my life? Having heard now, having closed the equation of oneness, what about my daily life? So the understanding is, wherever you are right now, whether it is in a cave, in your house, tomorrow in a park, at work, wherever that is, in the shop, wherever you are, that's exactly where Ishvara is. Making your form what it is. Sustaining that form what it is. Sustaining that thought what it is. You're never away from what is already true. So there's no question of looking for Ishvara elsewhere, in some special place, in meditation. Hold on, let me dig deep and find all knowledge, all power, or consciousness. It is already true right now. That's why we said the four orders of reality, Brahman, Maya, Ishvara, Jiva, are true right now. Just depends on what standpoint you're looking at it from. So if I don't know Ishvara in my daily life, then what am I going to feel like? Isolation. Some people feel isolated, alone, even when there's a family around them. They feel alone. I don't feel connected. I cannot connect with you. Why not? Because I'm disconnected from the one thread that is in and through all beads. The one who is in touch, who understands the vision of oneness. They can be alone, they can be in a Himalaya, they can be with their family, they can be anywhere. It makes no difference. Because I'm always in touch with the one thread that is the truth of everything. That's the implications of this knowledge. One no longer lives a meaningless life, because before it was like, what's the purpose of all of this? But now you know, there's only one reality, appearing as the many, and you're never away from that reality. You, the Jiva, just happen to be one of those appearances, but it doesn't make you limited. Even though it does relatively cause limitation, but on the absolute level, there's no limitation whatsoever. Fear of tomorrow is gone. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen, with me, with my health, with fear of persecution, being prosecuted, being punished by Ishvara. All of this is coming from not knowing about the nature of Ishvara. Whatever punishment I receive is deserving according to the cause-effect relationship. But at least now I have a shock absorber. I can say, hey, whatever's happening, there is some past cause. I may not know it. What's happening now may not be pleasant, but it's happening not out of a random event. It's happening because it's traced to something else. So what I can do is I can at least look at it in a positive manner and learn from it and just keep on moving forward. Less stress, right? Always stress. I've got to get somewhere, to some special place. Impatience. Where is there to go? You're already eternal right now. And yet, 5 minutes, big deal. 1 minute, big deal. Lack of trust is gone. Well, I don't trust what's going to happen. I don't trust you. Why? Because I feel isolated. I don't know that one connection. Resilient towards challenges. Before knowing Ishvara, there was a sense of stress. Oh, what now? You know, why me? I'm so unlucky. Ishvara is punishing me. I'm not a worthy human being. I'm a nobody. Now, gone. Just a cause-effect relationship. It's got nothing to do with Ishvara. Ishvara is just facilitating the results of your actions. Cheerfulness, lighter, feeling playfulness. Before, oh, so serious, you know, spirituality is so serious. There's no laughing here. It's enlightenment we're talking about. Okay, we're grown-ups now. Hey, what is true, and you're not away from what is true. That truth is you right now. And that truth is limitless, ananda. So where's the question of being serious? How long is this life going to last? What, 20, 30, 40 more years? And I'm going to spend that life in seriousness? Forget about it. No more victim mode. Oh, I'm a victim of unfortunate circumstances. Why me? I'm so unlucky. Those people are cheating and yet they're making money. I am so honest and yet, you know, I'm making nothing. No one can escape from dharma. So you may not see that now, but everything comes back. So there's no question of victim mode. So the benefits are huge by understanding this vision. Okay, 24, wow. 30 minutes over time. And that concludes our equation to vision of oneness. Okay, any final comments or questions about what we have discussed?
I did have one.
Mm-hmm.
Is it ever appropriate to say I am Ishvara?
No.
Context.
The truth of Ishvara is I'm not away from Ishvara. I am not away from Ishvara. Ishvara and I are one. The reality of Ishvara and I are one.
Yeah.
This is not about making some claims about I am Ishvara or it's only for the context of teaching. But in terms of speaking, no. This is all.
In terms of speaking, no. But we're trying to feel ourselves as everything. You know, like there's unity with Ishvara in everything we do. So we're trying to feel like the breath is Ishvara and I'm the breath. You know, it's like.
Okay, so remember what is moksha? I said the question, what is moksha? Despite my understanding that my inherent nature is limitlessness, I also understand there's an apparent limitation of this person, at least while the body is alive. And I have to accept that. I have to be okay with that limitation.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's not now about trying to feel more than you already are, because no matter how much this pot tries to feel the clay, it is already clay. Whether it feels the clay or not, it is still the clay. So it's an understanding. That's why we say it is owning up to what is true right now. It's got nothing to do with trying to feel more or less, or more expensive, or more in tune with something.
Okay, yeah. It's less emotional, it's more knowledge, isness. Yeah.
Yeah, and knowledge is not separate from experience. You know, they're one and the same. Because what you know is what you naturally perceive, what you naturally experience yourself to be. If I know myself to be a small, limited individual, I experience myself as a small, limited individual. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.